Hello folks, and a warm welcome. You're tuned in to My Meditation, the indoor series. My name's Guy Cross, and I'll be introducing you to some interesting people with some interesting ways of using the indoors to help sustain a healthy frame of mind. Sometimes, especially for outdoor lovers or people who can't physically leave the house, it can be hard to keep yourself occupied while confined to your home. I've always been curious as to how other people used indoor hobbies and activities to take care of themselves, and that curiosity led to the birth of this podcast series. My guests will talk about their favourite indoor hobby, and will go into depth of how it helps them find peace of mind. Hopefully one of, if not many of the hobbies within this series will help you, or at the very least inspire you. And that's the whole aim of these podcasts, to fill you with ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of before, and to hear some positive, encouraging, real-life stories from my guests. Sometimes, just hearing someone else's perspective on a hobby or activity gives you a fresh new way of looking at it, which can't be a bad thing, right? So without further ado, let's meet this week's guest. Hello everyone, and this week I'm talking to Anne Ruffell. Anne was brought up in Essex in the UK and moved to Wolverhampton, where she spent most of her life. She moved to North Wales 16 years ago, and she's a huge music lover. She's a performer and also a teacher. Anne's also a published writer and has written over 60 children's books. Besides all of this, Anne, in the last 3 years, has taken up a completely different hobby to help her with her health, mentally and physically. So let's delve in and find out what that hobby is. So hello Anne, thanks for taking the time out for us today.
Okay, lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, you too. How are you feeling today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. We were just talking before, and you were a little bit stressed with technology, weren't you? But you're nice and calm now.
Yes, done a bit of yoga, that's calmed me down.
You've done a bit of yoga already. Great stuff. Well, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things before we get into your hobby at the moment, and that's the music side of things and the writing. So when did you begin performing as a musician?
Oh, when I was 7, I started learning the piano. But you see, my dad was a musician, very, very talented musician. He played the piano, he played the organ. And when we were kids, we used to sing round the piano with him. But yes, started when I was 7, which is a jolly good time to start.
Yeah, it's always better to start things young, isn't it? For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and so when did you become a teacher?
Well, I never intended to become a teacher, but nothing further from my mind. But when I was at university and a bit hard of money, somebody asked if I would teach them, knew that I could play the piano, and I started teaching to pay my rent, and it sort of never stopped.
And what age were you there?
Well, I would have been about 20, I suppose.
Oh, wow, yeah, still quite young then.
Yes, quite young, and I did it off and on until, I started properly when I went to Wolverhampton about 45 years ago, and did it properly all the time.
Yeah, and you're still doing it to this day?
I am still doing it to this day, yes, I'm afraid so.
No, that's amazing, that's really good. And is it piano specifically that you teach?
Yes, I'm not good enough at anything else.
I'm sure you are.
I do play the cello, but it's pretty terrible, but it's good enough just to play in our amateur orchestra.
Yes. So do you want to tell the listeners about that? You're involved in an orchestra, aren't you?
Yes. Conway Town Orchestra, which is a lovely little amateur orchestra, which has grown and grown since I first joined it. There were, I think, about 8 of us when I started. I think there's now about 30. And
is it all age groups that are in the orchestra?
Yes. I mean, we do have some young kids, but they tend not to have time. So it's sort of, middle-aged to antique, like me.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to mention a lady's age, but with the hobby that you've got going on at the moment, I think it's going to be impossible not to mention your age a little bit later on. But well, let's tell the audience now. How old are you, Anne?
I'm 80. 80 and 3 months.
Wow. And we're going to mention the hobby that we're going to talk about in a minute, and I think the listeners are going to be quite surprised at what you're doing right now. But I just wanted to touch also on your writing as well. When did you begin writing?
Well, you see, I was a very bookish child. I escaped from life by reading, and I wanted to do it myself. And I was probably, again, about 7 when I wrote my first book. I remember its name. It was called Violet and Emma Up the Seaside. I don't think anything happened, but, I wrote a book.
You wrote a book at the age of 7?
Yeah, and I wrote it
Wow.
in a little teeny, hard-backed exercise book. And there was my book. I had a book.
Wow. And did you ever publish that book?
No.
No? You didn't re-edit it or anything like that?
No, in fact, I don't know where it is. It disappeared long ago.
Shame. So when was your first book published? When did you become a published writer?
1977, the first one. And it was called A Piece of Earth, and it was about the Earth coming apart in pieces. I had one of those, are they Chinese, Japanese? I don't know, sort of puzzles, wooden puzzles that come apart. And I thought, I wonder what would happen if the Earth came apart like that. So I wrote a book to find out how to put it back again.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Very interesting. I'd love to see these books, actually. And there are a lot of them, or all of them, are children's books that you've had published, right?
Yes, from sort of age 8 to teenage. I did teenage ones. I have tried writing for adults, but I had nice letters, but nobody wanted to publish them.
Oh dear. And so back then, did you use music and writing as like a coping mechanism for times when you were feeling down or stressed or having things going on?
Definitely. From the writing point of view, yes, I wrote a lot of my childhood problems out, I think. Well, for instance, I'm very, very small. And when you're little, you tend to get treated as somebody much younger than you are. And that can be quite nice, but actually it's hideous when you're young. You want to grow up.
I know that feeling very well, Anne.
Do you? I wrote a teenage romance called Babyface about a young girl who just wasn't taken seriously as a girlfriend because she looked too young. I also wrote one for a book for much younger kids called Too Small, which is about a little giant. And nobody took him seriously either because he was too small. Yeah. So, that got a lot of that out of me. Music. Yes, it's always saved me. Classical music, I'm not really into pop music or anything else really. I'm very much a classical music freak. Yeah. I had a failed relationship and went back to university to a bedsit on my own, far away from anybody I really knew, and oh gosh, my little record player, vinyl, really old stuff. But that saved me. Yeah. That really saved me. And it always has, it calms. All the time it calms.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's amazing. I understand that totally with music. I can't say the same for writing because I've never kind of been a writer, so to speak. I've done little bits here and there, but I've never written like my problems down or things like that. But I know that helps a lot of people, doesn't it? And like you were saying then, you've actually written books revolving around your problems and putting it to paper has helped you kind of deal with them things as well.
Yeah, and it does. It does. It really does. And it's gone now. I don't worry anymore. It's happened, and I've made that person into somebody else who coped with it.
Yeah. No, that's really, really good. I mean, so should we move on to let's move on to what you're doing now. I mean, what's your new hobby? What's your meditation now? Do you want to let the listeners know?
Aerial hoop.
Aerial hoop.
I'm a circus performer.
And that's why I'd like to mention your age. That's why I wanted to let the listeners know that you're 80 years old.
Yes.
Because if you don't know what aerial hoop is, do you want to explain to the listeners what aerial hoop actually is in case they don't know?
I usually have to tell people it's like trapeze. In fact, I started doing trapeze simply because my daughter Katie teaches trapeze, and I'd been watching her classes, thought they were absolutely wonderful, just looked with wonder. And then one time when I was staying with her, there was a beginner's class, and I asked if I could join the beginner's class. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get up on the darn thing. I had to be pushed up. But I drove home all 250 miles feeling this amazing sense of wonder and peace and glory. And I've never felt anything like it. So I tried to find somewhere in Bangor where they did it and found wonderful Pagan's Pole. Started at trapeze, but the teacher there, Tracy, the most wonderful teacher in the world, said that most of her people do hoop. Would I like to try that? And I was just hooked, absolutely hooked. So you've got a hoop, a steel hoop dangling from the ceiling, and you get up on it with great difficulty at first for me. And do beautiful shapes and movements and collect a whole load of bruises on the way, usually.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great fun. I've obviously, well, I'll let the listeners know, I met Anne through a friend of mine, Nikki, who also goes to aerial hoop. And Nikki told me that I must get Anne on to do a podcast because she's just an amazing person. So here we are. So, but yeah, I've seen some photos of my friend and some videos of her doing some kind of routines and things. And it's very flowy, isn't it? It's good for flexibility. It's good for strength. I mean, I think you just mentioned then of how you started. You were quite stiff and you were quite kind of not very, able to do that kind of thing. But I have you been doing this for 3 years now? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I started at the age of 77. Yeah.
77. That's my lucky number, actually, 77.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, so as I'm guessing it's helped you physically as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. I've got stronger. I have become more flexible. I do have creeping arthritis, which is affecting my piano playing quite badly. But I can still hang on to a hoop without letting go. I used to let go a lot and fall. Wonderful crash mats, I have to say. But you stop being frightened of falling because it's so easy. But now I don't fall. I don't fall at all. And I can hold on. Yes. Feeling very, very good, I have to say.
Yeah, and coming out of the classes, that's what I was just going to ask you. How do you feel when you come out of the classes? Is it like a release for you? Do you feel, like a buzz?
Well, yes, it's that extraordinary feeling that I had driving my 250 miles home from my daughter's class. Every time I have the most amazing feeling of wellness, happiness. The first few times I would text Tracy and say I went home singing. I didn't go home singing, but my whole being was singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't get with any other activity. I mean, with other things, walking, climbing up mountains, doing my piano, practicing. No, I just feel tired. But I come home and I feel as if I could run up a mountain. It's absolutely amazing feeling.
Oh, that's amazing. That really is. And with you starting hoop, did that? Have you started doing things at home that kind of relate to that? I mean, you just mentioned before you've done some yoga this morning already. So is that something you've been doing anyway, or is that something that you've kind of taken up since hoop?
That again was my daughter Katie, because once when I was watching her classes, they were doing a warm up, and she said, "Come on, Mum, you do it with us," and I couldn't. And when I got back to her house, she said, "Mum, I think you ought to do a bit of exercising. Try this. Try the 5 Himalayan rites." So I don't know whether you know that, but there are 5 things you do. There's downward dog and upward dog and various things like that. 5 of them, and you do it each one 21 times. I could only do 2. of each. But I added one a week, and I now do my 21 every day. And it keeps my back flexible. I've never had backache since I did it. Well, I used to have bad backache before. It keeps my hips moving. Yes, and it's my everything. I do it every morning.
That's amazing, Anne. That really is. I take my hat off to you because, again, at 80 years of age, doing that every morning, clearly it's doing wonders for you as well, isn't it? I'm a true believer in as soon as you if you stop at old age, you're going to seize up a little bit, aren't you? I mean, even middle-aged, like you get like
Yes.
myself, I'm not as flexible as I should be, I don't think. So I think it's just great for the body, great for the mind, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes.
No, that's great. So yeah, I mean, I know you've only been doing that for the last 3 years. The next question, which I've been asking all of my guests, is, how has there ever been a time in your life where you've really been feeling quite low, and you've used this activity to kind of help you through? But I know we've talked on the phone before, and you said not so much this activity, but you have used like music and writing in the past. I'm just wondering if there's a specific time you'd like to talk to the listeners about, of how you've like been through a bit of a dark time and you've gotten out with it through either music or writing.
Well, as I say, the loneliness after that failed relationship where music saved me. Here, when I moved to Wolverhampton, to North Wales, again, I was very much on my own. My daughter lives not far away, but I didn't see much of her. It was when I met musicians. Playing the piano myself, you're far too concerned with getting your technique right to express everything absolutely right. But when you play it with other people, I play in a piano trio and a piano quartet, which we haven't been able to do over lockdown, which has been awful. But for the last 2 weeks, I've met up again, and the wonder of getting back, it's another peaceful thing to do. It's not you. You're not... There's no trying to be good at anything here. It's playing together. You're in tune with each other. You're listening to each other. You're part of a musical experience. And there's something, playing music together is something totally wonderful. And that has made my life here so happy. As well as looking out at the sea every day, which is even happier.
That's a bonus, definitely.
Yes.
No, that's great. Yeah, so I can definitely relate to the music. I mean, I don't play any instruments myself, but I can only imagine how much of a nice feeling that must be, sitting with a load of people just kind of jamming out and making a beautiful piece of music. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
No, that's great. And so just going back to the hoop, what is there? Just to the listeners, why would you recommend hoop to anyone? Why would you recommend it?
Oh, it's just wonderful for the whole body and the whole mind. I can't think of anything more glorious to do than, well, apart from getting your bruises.
No pain, no gain, as they say.
And also it's making your brain work, and to feel your body in space, to know where one arm is, which is the front arm, which is the back leg. I'm having to think. It's making my brain work as well. So yeah, go for hoop. Go and do it.
Yeah, it sounds like an all-rounder, really. Good for the mind, good for the body. Like you say, mentally, like having to think as well. Do you do the routines? Do you try and put routines together and that kind of thing, or do you just kind of hang from it and do whatever?
Some of the things I can't do. Tracy very often gives me something that I could do instead. I don't always keep up. I'm usually much slower than everybody else, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Yeah, doing one thing after another, making a lovely flow of movement. That is great fun. Yeah, I can imagine. I might join you one day. I might join you on a little class. Please do. Yes, love to see you.
I'm not far away. I'm sure I could manage a class at some point.
I'm sure you could. Yes, I think you've got to.
Well, we'll get that organised. Definitely, we'll do that. I've got your Tracy. You're talking about Tracy, your teacher. She's actually going to be coming on to the podcast as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, she's quite keen to do that, which is I'm looking forward to speaking to her as well. So I'm sure you're going to get a mention. I know she's very fond of you.
I know, she's been lovely to me.
Yeah, no, that's great. So whereabouts is this class? Is it in? Did you say Bangor?
Yes, on High Street.
Uh-huh.
Quite near where the Varsity pub was. I think it's closed now, isn't it?
I haven't been to Bangor, especially down the High Street, for a long time. I'm not that familiar anymore, to be honest with you.
Turn right at the cathedral.
There you go, listeners. Just go to Bangor, turn right at the cathedral, and you're there.
Yes.
Perfect.
Pagan's Pole.
Pagan's Pole?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sure I can. Is that Tracy? That's Tracy's class, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'll put a link to that, actually. I'm sure she's got a Facebook group or something.
She has.
See if I can get a link for that, and I'll put it into the show notes here so that people can find it for sure. Definitely.
Yes.
Great. And the next question I've got here is, do you have a personal story of gratitude that you could talk to the listeners about? Some just like how you're just grateful for the most simple things in life?
My children.
Your children. I was just going to say before, actually, you seem to have a lot to thank your daughter for. She's got you into pole. I was going to say pole then. Yeah, into the hoop and all of that kind of thing. She's kind of given you a little kick, hasn't she?
That's right. Yes.
Fair play.
But there's Peter and Katie in the middle, and Selena, the young one who lives near me. They have always been so supportive of everything I do. They've been supportive when I've been performing. They've been supportive. I mean, they've read my books to their children. Katie, of course, has been instrumental in getting me to hoop. But, I send them pictures and they all say, wow, well done, Mum. But also this big, big gratitude to Tracy. How wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I would like to say, the atmosphere there, I have been totally accepted as just one of them. I'm not an old person. I'm not somebody who has to be given special treatment. I'm just one of them. Yeah. And this is something I don't think I've ever really experienced. Partly, I think, because there's no sense of competition. We're all happy to do what we can.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a thing that Tracy puts into her classes. Or, I don't know. My Katie said it's circus people. They are so diverse. Yeah. They are so accepting anyway. I mean, you can be fat, thin, tall, short, old, young, and it doesn't matter. You're just one of them. It's the most amazing feeling.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I guess even without you realising it, just bouncing off one another, just kind of energetically, you're making each other happy, aren't you? But by being like that, just by accepting however that person is next to you, or,
Yeah, I've never known it before. When I've done sort of gym classes and things like that, you're always trying to be better than somebody else. Or other people are trying to be better and show off how clever they are. There's absolutely no sense of competition.
Yeah.
It's the most lovely, wonderful, relaxing feeling.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's really nice. Like you say, it doesn't matter what level you're at. They're just encouraging, right? They just want you to get better at what you're doing.
Yes.
No matter what kind of level you're at, they don't judge. That's
judgment.
Nice.
I think that's what it is. No judgment.
Yeah. And that's how it should be, isn't it? Everyone's at different levels in their lives. And if someone's trying to improve their life, which that's the whole reason you're going to the class, right? Is that you want to improve yourself, either you're physically or mentally. And that's just a great thing by just turning up there and going, isn't it?
I suppose so, yes. But again, it's not the sort of need for improvement. It's the need for just the joy, getting that joy, yes. I mean, I do try. And I do get better, but I don't think that is the main thing. It's having that lovely feeling of joy when you've done it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And is that a weekly thing for you?
It's twice weekly usually.
Twice weekly.
Yes.
And your yoga in the mornings?
Yeah.
You're doing really well, Anne, to be fair.
Thank you.
Well done. Really well done. And I appreciate you talking about everything today, especially the hoop, but, also the music and the writing. It's just good for the listeners to see what that can do for you as well. It's a great way to kind of cope with things. And I have read a lot about people that write things down, their problems, and it helps them and things like that. So, yeah, thank you very much for talking about all of that.
Yes, good.
Appreciated. There's just a little section at the end. We've come to the end of the podcast now, and there's a little section at the end I call Turn the Table, where the guest gets to ask me a question. So I don't know if you have a question you would like to ask me today, or you can pass.
Yes, I would. When you talk about meditation, to me, that always seems to be somewhere where you go away all by yourself and be quiet, and you get your brain disengaged and that sort of thing. But you are making me feel that my hoop, which is physical and noisy and full of effort, you're telling me that is a form of meditation. So obviously I'm not thinking in the right way about what the idea of meditation is.
Okay. So you'd like me to explain what my
Your
vision
philosophy.
of... Okay. Have you heard of mindfulness meditation?
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of like that, really. I mean, I don't think meditation... I've tried the meditation you're talking about, where you go and sit down, close your eyes for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and just be silent. And, I find that very difficult, actually. I find it very difficult to do. And so what I used to call my meditation is cycling. So when I'm out cycling, I just totally focus on my surroundings, like what's around a little squirrel's there, look at the leaves on that tree, anything, I'm so in the zone of what I'm doing there. I'm not thinking of any problems, anything. It's just, I feel like I'm meditating, I'm just giving my mind that calm time of just being aware.
Yes, that is interesting, because when I was writing, I always had music. I mean, I would play the same thing, say, an Elgar string quartet, but I would write with that music going on, and it would just keep going and keep going and keep going. And I think it took away all the problems and the extraneous noises from the world.
Yeah.
So that I could focus in on what I was writing.
Exactly. And I funny you should say that, because I do that myself. If I'm kind of writing stuff, or I'm trying to concentrate on getting something done, I'll sometimes just put some piano music on, very relaxing, and there's no rhythm or anything. It's just kind of notes being hit here and there, I don't know how you would call that.
Yes.
Sporadic kind of piano, just very relaxed. And it just takes away that kind of, I don't know, it makes me focus. It's weird.
Yeah, probably it sort of tunes into your brain, doesn't it? And takes away all the things that you were fussed about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes into that part of your mind, whatever it is, and then you can focus in on the other things. Probably like you're cycling, and then you've got time to look at your leaves and your squirrel.
No, that's it. And, I solve problems also by doing things like that. I might, if I have got something on my mind, just taking myself out on my bike, and it makes, sometimes I'll come up with ideas. I think, oh yeah, I could do that. Or, it just gives me that time from everything else. So this is why I started the podcast, really, because I was intrigued as to what other people use. I mean, they might not call it meditation, but I think everyone's hobby is a meditation. If you go hiking up a mountain and it's making you feel better, and it's taking your problems away, then that's meditation to me.
I do understand. Yes, you're absolutely right.
That's kind of where I'm coming from. You see, it's I think everyone meditates in their own different ways, even with knitting, swimming, and that's why I've got so many different people coming on the podcast, because everyone's got different hobbies and interests, and they use them in different ways as well.
So in a way, they're more than hobbies; they're essential parts of their lives.
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, if you took cycling away from me, that's taking away my peace of mind. That's my time for me to think and to just be on my own, and to get away from everything. So Yeah, that's why I call it meditation. I believe, and it just goes back to mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation really is just, they say go out for a walk and just focus on whatever you're looking at. Just focus on that thing. If you're looking at a leaf, just really look at it, and don't think of anything else while you're looking at that. Just think about that. And it can be maybe hard if you've got real problems on your mind. It might be difficult to do, but I just think it's so beneficial just doing something you enjoy, like you with your hoop. And you don't realise how much that's probably helping you mentally. I mean, maybe you do. But I don't think some people realise how much their hobbies or interests actually do help them, and it is a form of meditation.
Yeah.
I believe that. So that's where I come from. That's the angle I'm kind of coming from.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, so so that's it. And keep up the good work with the hoop. Don't give up the yoga. Keep everything going. It sounds like you're doing exactly what you should be doing at 80 years old. I mean, that's just phenomenal to me, and I'm sure the listeners are taking their hats off to you as well.
That's what everybody should do at 80 years old.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Anne. Unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about, that's kind of the end of the podcast.
No, that's all. Thank you very much for talking to me. It's been lovely.
No, thanks for taking the time, and I'm really glad you agreed to come onto the podcast. It's been fascinating speaking to you. Okay, Anne? And just like that, Anne was gone. She panicked a little as she had someone knock on her door and mistakenly cut the end of the recording short. Oh well, never mind. I'm sure you'll agree that was a fascinating chat with a fascinating woman. Even at the age of 80, she still seems to have no limits, and this can be clarified by her aerial hoop teacher. While in her younger days she used music and writing to maintain a peaceful frame of mind, Anne has now added another coping mechanism under her belt that is not only beneficial for her mental health, but also beneficial for her physical health too. Have you ever thought about an aerial hoop class for yourself? If not, why not? Maybe you could get the same life gains that Anne gets. And after speaking to Anne, I'm sure you can't say that you're too old. This conversation was lovely, and one that I shall refer back to when I need a little pick-me-up in life. Thank you once again for tuning in. If you want to join us over on Facebook and Instagram, then search for My Meditation Podcast. I'll leave the links to both in the show notes, as well as the link to the official My Meditation Podcast channel, which you're more than welcome to subscribe to. The Facebook and Instagram page offer positive, inspiring and light-hearted quotes, photos and videos designed to bring a little happiness into your life. If you found any value from this podcast, I'd highly appreciate it if you could rate it and review it. And if you're feeling extra passionate, then please feel free to share it with the world and spread the word. It all helps the channel grow, which in turn means we can reach more people, which means helping more people. These podcasts are getting released every fortnight, so I hope you can join us for the next, and who knows, it could be about an interesting hobby or activity that could possibly be a life changer for you. Until then, take care and have fun, folks. Peace.